Hi, everybody. Kate is back. Welcome to Making Light, Two Humans Being. Kate Foggo is back from vacation, and we are creating a new episode today, and I am so excited and I'm so grateful. So today's topic that we're going to talk about in depth has to do with unexpected, I had to think about that a second, unexpected challenges. Well, this is going to be good. I have a feeling. So I'm going to turn over to Kate. Because she had a lot of things happen while she was on vacation. So she's going to tell us what's all going on and we'll talk through it. So welcome, everybody. Hey, Kate, welcome back.
Hi. Oh, it's good to see you, Julie.
You too.
As I messaged you, we didn't even have Wi-Fi, as I said. It was just became pointless to worry about it. So I was in Egypt for a couple of weeks, and we had decided to do the open water diving, which is what you have to do if you want to go scuba diving. And I've always avoided diving. We do a lot of snorkeling, or we used to in the days when I had glamorous holidays. And I was quite happy scuba diving, and diving was one of these things. Sorry, I was quite happy snorkeling. Scuba diving is one of these things that I don't know how I know this, because I actually only know one person who dives, but it always seemed to be that divers are always, everything's about diving, like everything, every holiday, because they have to keep their hours up, because they have to keep their training up, because they have to keep in all of that. And it's just like, I don't want another fucking chore on, like, because even snorkeling with Gary, much as I love it, it'd be twice a day, once before breakfast and early afternoon, and we'd have to go out, be out for an hour each time. And it's like, I just sometimes just don't want to do anything. I don't want to play Candy Crush. I don't, it's sort of, but I always go along with it. I probably, the last few holidays, I think I probably occasionally would go no, and then I'd feel guilty because I'm not, I should be swimming with him. Though what on earth do you do if someone, decide, I don't know, I nearly fell out with some people while we were out there, because it's the same thing. There's all this responsibility about, and I'll come on to this, about being a buddy of somebody's, that if they get into difficulty that you're there. So this is true of swimming anyway, but you actually have limited options. Like in Scotland, if one of my friends struggled, I would happen to be with them, I would do my best. If I was on shore and out and something happened, I couldn't go in after them, because I would then die of hypothermia, because I've just got out, I've got literally 10 minutes to get out, get dry, get warm, otherwise I'm going to go into hypothermia. Do you know what I mean? There's all this sort of responsibility we have for each other, and you think the reality of it is you're going to tell them where the body is. There isn't really, in my view, there really isn't much you can do other than tell them where to look. And it's the same snorkeling. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's obviously some things you can do, but like with the diving, you've literally got like a minute to get to your body and give them air. Otherwise, you're either you're going up or you're out, and you're not allowed to go up too quickly. So all of that, but
it sounds like so much fun, Kate.
Well, this is it. So this is where the unexpected challenges come in. So I had avoided diving because I didn't want it to be all about diving, but it's sort of like we did one of these experience things where somebody takes you and they literally hold your hand and take you out. And I did really enjoy it, and it actually felt very natural. I love swimming, and it is really nice to be underwater and get that sort of closest we get to flying sort of thing. So we decided that would be a good thing to do, but you have to do the course. And I don't know if I'd mentioned on before about, we did the course online before we went. We did PADI, which is just the most popular one. There are other courses that you can do, but it's actually quite scary. It was quite a lot of work. Like I was expecting to just breeze through it, because I'm just a bit smug like that. I tend to find things like that easy. And I don't really agree with it. People always say, oh, actually things get harder as you get older. And I try to resist that, but maybe it's true. But it wasn't that easy. Had to actually put some effort in. And the more I read it, I was like, do we really want to do this? Because basically, for every 10 meters you go down, air will compress by half, I think. Don't write in if I've got it wrong, but it's, so the converse is obviously true when you're going up. Which means that if you go up too fast, your lungs can explode, right? Yeah. So the more I was doing it as we were going through the course before we went, I was like, there's probably more to this than holding your breath. It's like, But anyway, we did the course, and then we got there. And one thing, again, I don't know if I'm just too old to do. I just don't want to do nights when you don't get any sleep, which is what happened because of the times of the flights. It wasn't a particularly long flight, but we had to go to Istanbul. We'd have got there at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then they would have started the course. If we'd gone down at 8 o'clock, they would have started the course. Fortunately, the other girl we were traveling with did not get up till the afternoon. But Gary and I just mugged. We're like, oh, right. Just like, so no sleep. Really interesting. You do the stuff in the pool or whatever, and then about day 2, day 3, I was like, all this responsibility about your body, right? You have to be less than a minute away from your body. If you run out of air or they run out of air, you have to share air. All these safety procedures, which have to, sorry, the farmers dragging mud around again. All these things, I get that they're very unlikely to happen and that you have to know how to do it. I understand all of that, but my brain's going like what? Like what? What's wrong with snorkeling? Broke all my nails trying to get my wetsuit on and off because this is 26 degrees in the water, right? That's warm, right?
Yeah.
That's warm.
Yeah. Celsius.
So
everybody watching 26 Celsius.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's quite, given that I swim in, at the moment it's 6 where I'm swimming. Still have to wear a wetsuit for 5 mil wetsuit, which is a pretty chunky wetsuit. Go figure. I don't understand it. And we got cold in the pool. Like, you're like, how? I mean, like it's 30 degrees in the air. It's probably a bit colder than that in the swimming pool. And anyway, so the wetsuit, the hassle, you're gonna die. If you run out of air and you go up too quickly, your lungs are going to explode. And and I was just like, and I had a real, like, I'm not. And I went through this whole, I'm not really scared about stuff like that. I've been told time and time again, I'm quite blasé about my swimming because I do have this attitude that if it goes to shit, I'll probably die like that. And I'm okay with that, I know it's not a nice way to think of things, but I don't expect people to jump in after me. Don't get me wrong. I do understand that the 3D side of me, if I was drowning, would be really, really hoping somebody would help me. But Kate, here and now, I do not expect anyone else in the world to be responsible. If I'm stupid enough to go in the sea and something happens and nobody, I don't expect people to be there. That's part of my unworthiness as well. But and I made a comment about that on the divers, and I got a bit funny about that. And I was just like, really, who are you kidding? How often are 2 people going to be less than a minute away from each other? Like, unless you're literally, and this is it, like you're like that with your buddy. Like, how is that fun? Like, that I have to watch every minute to see if Gary's still breathing. It's like such a massive responsibility. And this was all coming to a head, and I was just like, I just don't know if I want to do it. And there was something I couldn't do hard, but I didn't do it very well. It was probably made worse by the fact Frida, this beautiful Swedish girl, 22, blonde, pretty, lovely, really intelligent, and everything she did perfect first time. You just like, oh, fuck off. And I wanted to hate her, but I couldn't because she was actually really nice. Gary and I are like, ooh, waiting for her to get it wrong, and she didn't. She was just like really good at everything. And I think the conclusion we came to is at 22 you don't think about stuff, whereas with Gary and I going, yeah, but what if this happens, or what if that happens, or all of that. I had a real crisis of confidence. I was just like, I don't want to do this. This is just, A, it's not fun, and B, I don't want to die. And I'm like, why? Because that's what was unexpected. I didn't expect to have any issues whatsoever with it. And this sort of went on, it sort of came to a head, and I was like, maybe I should just stop because I'm not enjoying this. This is stupid. And then of course there's all the guilt about what will Gary do if I don't finish the course. Then he doesn't, and I'm like, do I really want to fucking do this on holiday for the rest of my life? Like, every time we go away, I have to go through all this shit again, all this responsibility for Gary of learning. I think the one that really got me was they call assessor, which is a controlled ascent without a safety stop or something like that. And that's like, if you're out of air, which should never happen, but if you're out of air, bearing in mind you've probably got 2 mouthfuls if you're lucky. And at what point do you notice? If your body can't get to you within a minute, like, or it was out of, just not close enough, you have to go up, but you have to go up slowly because otherwise
you explode.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we had to practice that on one breath. So you are 10 meters under the water, at least, maybe deeper. When we did it in the sea, it was probably deeper. 10 meters under the water, and you have to swim up and you have to go slower than a minute, right? you have no context how fast that is. And I did it twice and I got in trouble for it because I did it too quickly. And I was thinking, if you have no air, I do not feel I have the self-control to swim so slowly that my lungs are going to burst because I need to breathe. You know, it's like, how do you overcome the human need to breathe? Even if you know it's going to kill you, my reptile brain is going, I'm going to fucking die anyway because I have no air. So this really freaked me out.
Yeah.
Because I can hold my breath. I did, you know, I can do my breath in the air. I can hold my breath for a reasonably long time. And if I practice, I used to do Wim Hof. If I practice, I can get quite long very quickly. But for me, breathing out for a minute is underwater. I don't know what it is about being underwater. I don't know if it's like, it's almost like your skin must breathe to some degree. But I always find that my breath holding is probably 2/3 when I'm in water. Don't know if it's pressure. Don't know what it is. To actually breathe out for a whole minute without panicking, going up towards the surface. And also you have no concept of what a minute is at this time. And we did have air when we were doing it. They don't cut your air off, but you're not supposed to breathe in that time. And I was just thinking, I can't do this. Like, I can't not rush up to breathe. Because, so that really, really freaked me out, Julie. What I realized in hindsight, having, I don't think I threw a hissy fit or anything, but I just got really down. And I was just like, I just don't want to do it. And I don't want to tell Gary that I don't want to do it because I don't want to let him down. But actually, yeah, fuck this. I'd rather go snorkeling. I'll just sit and eat chips and go snorkeling. And what I realized, of course, is not even about drowning. It's about doing it wrong. Getting in trouble, letting the instructor down because he's going, he did pass me on the 3rd attempt, but he said it was literally just okay. And I knew in my head, I didn't feel I'd actually done it any slower than the time before, and I didn't feel I could do it any slower. So in my mind, I had, in reality, failed. Like, it's not about a pass or a fail, but I'm going, if this happens in real life, I know I can't do it because I'm sitting here controlled and not in a panic, and I am unable to do it. Therefore, when it actually happens, I don't think I'll be able to do it. But I realized that it is more about doing it wrong. So is that what happens to adults? Is that why we find it hard to learn things? That I don't know. It just seemed really odd. And I had a real, and I realized that that's what it was. And then you're like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm 53, never going to see these people again. I mean, Mo, the instructor, was lovely, but he's probably in his like early 30s or something like that. He doesn't give a shit whether some white middle-aged woman passes. Do you know what I mean? It's like, I'm not letting anyone down.
Yeah.
But it was all about not doing it right, getting it wrong. It's not about the fact that I was going to die or that my lungs are going to explode or what. I didn't do it right. And that's what caused all this.
Were you talking with your guides through like all of this whole time? And I mean, like your whole time there to bring it back even to a negative belief, or, you know, because
I did that time. I have to say that all my practices went completely out the window. It's hard because you're in one room with Gary. I've got nowhere to go to get, well, I could, but I had to go down to the beach or go somewhere on my own. And I just didn't, just because I'm not very good at keeping practices going when my routine's disrupted. And Frida, the girl that we did it with, her mum was at Ellen and she was a expert diver. And I went down to reception once and she was sitting meditating like a Buddha on one of the chairs there. Apparently she went and did yoga every morning on the beach. Me, yoga, meditation, out the window the minute I went on holiday. But I tried to, but I don't feel like I had the space, which again, I probably could have done, but it was busy as well. I didn't get a lot of time to go off on my own and talk to my guides. And I mean, I was talking it through when I realized it was this, because I was like, what the fuck's going on? I'm not afraid. And I get told off by my swimming friends because I'm quite blasé about safety. Because it's sort of like, you know, I do honestly believe that if you're going to go, you're going to go. not saying you should take risks, but it's like I said, I think what I was getting to before was this sort of this idea about being responsible. I do think taking a tow float is a good idea because it gives you something to hang on to. But essentially, there's not much you can do for someone else in cold water if, unless you're actually with them.
Yeah.
Would I go in after somebody if I saw they were drowning? I suppose I probably would, but I'd probably kill myself doing it.
Yeah.
No?
Yeah.
I think that's the problem is, so I'm a bit blasé about it. It's sort of like, if it's my mistake, it's my mistake. I don't expect you to get in after me.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit blasé about tides and things like that because I've never been scared by water. I have more appreciation now of what current can do, but anyway, so that's my story. So you never stop learning, Julie.
Good times. Water terrifies me. I mean, doesn't terrify me, but being in deep water, I don't like it because I know in a past life, at least one past life, I've drowned. So I don't like deep water at all.
You can drown in an inch of water.
And see, there you go. But yeah, I know I was at sea or something and the ship capsized and I drowned. So yeah. Anyway.
I did think about that, past lives.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I got over it and I'm fine. And then Gary had a wobble about stuff, but it's just.
I think it's fascinating the idea of not doing it right, or fear of getting it wrong, or fear of doing it wrong, or something, that aspect of it. And I also feel like it's tied to like your rebellion. Like, remember how we did that episode about rebellion, like the rebellion aspect of it. We should explore this whole rebellion part of it, of things, like, because the rebellion part is like, then I don't want the responsibility. Don't give me the responsibility. And then the flip side to some degree of that, even, and that might even not be the right word, is then the responsibility that you do feel towards animals, like how you were telling before we started recording, you were telling me about the pigeon that had been injured that you found, as well as then how the sheep sometimes are, injured, and you feel like this overwhelming need to help when you may not even be required to help. So it's interesting how that all kind of.
Interesting that I feel it towards animals, but not humans. Yeah.
Right.
Well, but
yeah.
I do think that's a part of it as well. Right? What the sort of the whole, can I really be bothered? Was this idea of me being responsible for my buddy, who is Gary. So when I'm trying to learn something new, and I'm supposed to be watching him too, I can't be responsible. That's such a huge responsibility for somebody's breathing. That's like, you're responsible for their life.
Yeah.
And actually, the guys are really good because actually they're saying as you're learning, you have to learn to keep an eye on your buddy. But when you're learning, actually, your responsibility is towards yourself. They're looking after your buddy. But we had a couple of scares. When we started doing the open water, we went out with a group and like we jumped in one place and Gary he's okay in deep water, but he was not expecting it. So we jumped in off a jetty. But what he didn't realize is for most places you swim out almost through a channel and then suddenly you've got the deep water there and it opens out and you've got the sort of reef on either side. Beautiful, like literally like a cliffs of 18 meters of beautiful reefs. Absolutely stunning. That's another story. But I mean, I'm just so glad I went because I had never seen reefs since we were in Kenya as a child, and I thought maybe they just didn't exist anymore. And I've always been really disappointed whenever I've seen any reefs, even in the Maldives. The fish are beautiful, but the reefs, not much. I've been places where the reefs are slightly better in the Maldives, but nothing like I remember as a child. Vietnam, I don't even know, we went to the Caribbean and really wasn't anything there. These are, as I remember, absolutely jaw-dropping, absolutely stunning. And that from that, it's all worth the whole thing. I was just like, oh my God, you're just in this magical world. But where we jumped in, what Gary didn't realize is you were jumping into literally 50 meters of water. And he got water in his mask and something else had happened, something come loose or something like that. So it was just everything went wrong at once. And I can see he's struggling, but I don't really know what to do. Fortunately, the guide saw, but that like really freaked him out as well but it's just learning because there's so many different things you have to learn to do. So, each of these things one at a time. If mask flooding, this happening, clearing that, whatever, you would do them all individually, it's fine. But when it takes you by surprise and you're new and you have to actually think about all these things, you know, and then he was really freaked out and he actually didn't want to go out again. But then we met this other lady who was a dive instructor, and she took us out and she got his confidence back. Really interesting, Julie, that no disrespect to the other divers because they were really good, but there is something about a female teacher and teaching people with compassion and love, because like she predominantly teaches middle-aged women who come on their own to learn because they don't want to be in a macho environment, because you know, and Gary just adores her because, you know, she's giving you the reassurance to get past that, because the last thing you need when you get frightened is somebody, you know, oh, it's all fine, you know, and it's like, no, it's not fine, I'm fucking shitting myself. And especially for a bloke, like for me, I'll just go, no, I'm fucking scared, whereas Gary doesn't want to say that because he's a man. Right. You know, so he was so appreciative of that. And I was just like, I'd said to her, this, you know, that's why I say that's how it turned into a relationship, that I could talk to her about what was going on with me, because I saw in her as like, you know, someone who's so competent and really has like a niche market and really niche offering, and that she has recognized, because she says it's really hard to get work as a woman dive instructor unless you like Baywatch. That's what people expect. Like, I don't know where these people are, but you know, but I'm like, do you see what you're offering? You know, you're offering this unique service, and this is all about, you know, what you say, your piece of pie and bringing your light and that. So I was like saying that to her, and of course that started the spiritual discussion, which is really nice. But so that was really good, because, you know, I don't know, it's such a huge learning experience on so many levels, really. I don't know how much of a holiday it was, but it was a huge learning experience. But
like you mentioned, like, when you're in the moment of when you're learning this stuff, you have to put yourself first. And that's also like, it feels like that's also where the tension was. Like, no, wait a minute, I just have to figure this out, I can't be responsible for you and me. Because it's almost like, it feels like the prioritizing someone else would come before you normally, but you were aware of, wait a minute, I can't do both. I need to focus over here. And that tension was tough. It's how it feels.
Resentment on my part. It's like, this is not fun if I have to worry about you. And I made the mistake of saying that. Actually, it was a good thing I did say it. I didn't mean it like that, but I was like, to be honest, I'd rather dive on my own. And what I meant was, is, you know, not only the fuck, I'm responsible for another human life, but actually I am quite fond of him, and obviously to see him in distress put me in distress. And I freaked out, because I didn't freak out and I wasn't panicking, but I was getting through twice as much air, because actually, you know, I'm watching him panic and I'm feeling. And actually, Tammy, my lovely new friend, said, you know, that she said it's quite often the same with couples, but she'd never seen it quite so strong with us. Now I think she's mistaken along the lines. I'm not sure it comes back from Gary the way it does for me, but I know, because of me being an empath, that when Gary's distressed, I get really distressed. You know, I usually take it usually manifests as anger and irritation towards him, but it is triggered by me knowing that he is in distress. And she said, I can't believe, she calls it the domino effect, because he'll start, he gets distressed, I witness it, I you know, then I get in trouble, because the whole thing about diving is the minute you get like, you know, it all goes to shit. And it can go to shit really quickly. That's what frightens me. You lose your buoyancy, you start going down, then this happens, and he couldn't clear his ears, that was a thing, and that's like critical. And if you can't clear your ears, you have to go back up. But he was thinking, because he's trying to deal with his mask, you know, and it, see, you can hear it, I'm really when it goes to shit, it happens really quickly, and suddenly you're dealing with all of this. But I think, not to put anyone else off diving, because actually one of the Glaswegian lecturers said, she called it task loading, because it's all new and it's piled on. You know, when you get in that situation, you're because it's all new, you don't necessarily, you know, she says, as you learn, and we learned this just at the time we were there, to deal with this first, then this, and it becomes automatic, like driving a car. It's just, you know, when you do something new, it was just the fact that everything just goes to shit so quickly. Anyway, but so she called it the domino effect. One person, and then the partner gets upset, or mothers and children, or something like that, and all of that. And I'd said I'd rather dive on my own, meaning I you know, I can't not see what's going on with you. So she actually went out with Gary, and I went out with somebody else, and then we both got a bit more confidence.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to say, I would probably request not to be paired with my significant other. And I would think that they wouldn't, because there's just so much more emotional attachment that you would think for the safety of all, you wouldn't pair
It's like you all don't dive together.
related couples. What I find is, so there's two things that you were talking about that I found super interesting. Was one, the distress and like how we take on the distress, particularly of our partners, because that is totally what I do with Brad, but I've been working on that. And then, as I know you have too, and this task loading thing, that's another thing that's really come to my forefront. So they're telling me to go there first. So like I've been getting, well, as you know, like I have a whole to-do lists. When I came back from Alaska, so I have these little notebooks, and I had a full page spread of this to-do list, this to-do list. I had like 4 different to-do lists depending on the grouping that they fell in. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't breathe. And the guides have
Wait, what do you mean depending on the grouping?
Oh, so like my business to-do list, Making Light to-do list, Animal Communication Collective to-do list, Danielle to-do list, like all these.
And then home.
Huh?
Then home and Brad and dog and family and
Exactly. Yeah.
too many lists.
Yeah. And Brad's taken on more freelance work, which means he can't necessarily cook. So now I cook, which is actually kind of forcing me to take control over what we eat, because sometimes we will revert to things that are not the best for us. So I'm actually really enjoying it, but it's like, oh my God, one more thing. But the guides have just been like one thing at a time, and be present in that thing. So the task loading thing, that's really interesting that it came up for you too, with the whole scuba diving thing.
Because it's the feeling of pressure that you have, because it's like, I can't do this, I don't know, you know, and I don't know how to do this, and then there's something else. Whereas if you've got one thing to do and you're in a panic, you can do it, but your whole it's overwhelmed, isn't it?
Yeah. And then you're not like, even just not so much in like a dire situation, but in a enjoy your time. And even just to relieve the tensions like in my shoulders, like it will be Sunday morning and I'm like, okay, this week's going to be busy. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Da, da, da. And I've got all these things. And it's like, wait, today I just need to clean my house. And then if I get, depending on how far I get, I will cook. If I don't get that far, we can order pizza. Like, it's just like, I have to focus on the things or else none of it will get done. It's like analysis paralysis almost type of stuff.
I have been thinking about that because given that I accept this was a challenging, wasn't lying on a beach holiday, and I've learned a lot. But there were moments I was like, do I not know how to feel joy like other people? I'm on holiday. I mean, I do, and I'm watching the reefs and that. But even then, after a period of time, I'm like, I don't like, I enjoy it when I'm doing it, but doing it twice a day, and I have to say, okay, I don't know what it is in pounds or whatever, what I weigh, but I had to wear 11 kilos of weight, right, for me to go down, plus the BCD and the air, which is probably another 10-12 kilos. So I'm walking around with 24 extra kilos. I can barely walk. Honestly, I was like an old lady just shuffling to the beach, and my legs are still killing me. I suppose because, it's only been probably 8 days of doing it by the time, before we actually got into the sea and that. But, I was thinking I could have thighs like I don't know, like a sumo wrestler by the end of this, because literally just carrying that weight on, unbelievable. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I was thinking about joy. This is, like, where do I find my joy? Like, even doing things like that, it's like everything I choose to do is wrapped up in a fucking lesson. Like, can I not just chill out? I mean, I read loads of books and I do enjoy that, but I worry that I don't know how to experience joy. For me, the closest I can get is vegging out watching RuPaul. I don't know how to open up beyond that. For me, because like you, I have all these fucking lists that I actually don't know how to go beyond that, to go, fuck the lists, I'm going to have fun. And I can only get as far as I'm going to ignore the lists. That's as far as I can get. I can't get beyond that. Now, maybe that will come with time, but I was really thinking that maybe, I don't know, maybe I just stop doing some stuff and stop. And that might be social media. It might be, you know, because like you, when I hear you talk about it, I'm like, why? Why do you need all these? Why do we do this?
I know.
Why is this? Why? It's like we haven't moved forward at all, because we've just replaced one set of tasks with another set of tasks.
I know. It's absolutely crazy. I was I've been noticing lately with Lucas, because I've been not recently, but I was starting to feel bad that, oh, he's not going to daycare every day like he used to when we both had regular, you know, day corporate jobs, all that stuff. And then, but he's been showing me lately that just relaxing and being together and enjoying being together, that's a big, huge step. And that's also part of why to leave him alone isn't a thing for him, because he wants to say, he's trying to show us and others that to have dogs integrated in what we do, or animals, I should say, integrated in what we do, that's really part of what we're working towards as a species ourselves. But I had a speaking engagement last week, and and I didn't feel comfortable bringing him with us. Usually we would, you know, leave him in the car, but I didn't know how long, and I didn't, you know, and I didn't know where we would be and all these things. And it's just different. In Alaska, it'd be no problem leaving him in the car. Or he would come into the building and I didn't know. Anyway, so we decided to, where he goes for daycare now, we decided to let him have, to board him there. And I was curious to see what would happen. Because I know he doesn't like cages, crates. I know he doesn't like that for a variety of reasons. Some of them past lives as well, oddly enough. But anyway, so throughout the evening, I would check in with him, and we're on the other side of the state, and we did come back. We were back by midnight here at home, but by then I couldn't go get him. But as we got closer to home, I could feel panic. And I just thought, okay, that's just me.
You're panicking.
I could feel him panic, but I discount. I'm like, okay, I just like, okay, I need to calm down because I need to send him energy. It's okay. This is how many hours until I pick you up. It's going to be just fine. Well, I get to the place and he's destroyed the bedding that he had in his crate. And he was more anxious than he usually is at night. And but I'm like, oh, that doesn't surprise me at all. But he's like, well, yeah, because we just need to like be hanging out together. And so this morning, because of the timing of talking with you and whatnot, we haven't taken our WALK yet. If I say the word out loud, you know, mayhem will ensue, but we haven't taken it yet. And he's just like, and so I was telling him, look, we're going to go in a couple hours. This is when we're going to go. Don't worry, we're going to be out there. And he's like, I'm just fine, just being quiet here with you and just, you know, chill. And that, I don't know why I'm saying this whole entire story, but
you were saying because you were coming back from wherever and you felt panic, you thought it was your panic, but are you saying that actually when you picked him up, it was him panicking?
Yeah, it was him panicking. But this simplicity in finding in the joy, I think I was trying to get to joy, this joy in just being together in the moment, and this simplification of stuff. Like we've just created these over complicated lives for, you know, all this stuff because we feel, oh my gosh, I've read so many books, Kate, too. This power, you know, I've talked about how like the attention span's gone from 12 to 6 and now it's down to 3 seconds. We don't have the focus anymore. We're not using our minds in a way that's actually healthy, and we're just completely disconnected from so many different ways, ourselves, nature. This is also what my talk was on, how disconnected we are, and that the animals are trying to connect us. We just we're not built for this world to some degree that we've created, and we've made it so much harder, and we've separated ourselves from one another instead of, you know, like being in the circadian rhythm, like you were talking earlier about, it's dark. it's darker sooner, you need to get to the chickens. And it's the same here on this, like it's darker later, and I have to delay the walk so we don't run into like 50 million deer, you know, but we don't flow with how the world is. We don't even eat vegetables that are in season. Like my avocados lately have been absolute shit. Okay, I don't even know why I'm buying them. I can tell they're not good.
We go through this all the time, and then I start buying them again. So I was just looking for that again. Right. So when you talk about Lucas,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
dog that showed up while we were there, and he's all being very well taken care of and all that. But I was just like, oh, I could just take him home, and this is why people. But I was talking to my sister about this. I mean, being with a cat, don't get me wrong, I love my cat and my chickens, but it's different in the relationship that you have. And I was thinking, when I was sitting with Rusty or playing with him, that's joy for me. That's real joy. You know, it's almost like I maybe fuck everything else, just get a dog. You know, and then I was sort of like, oh, I can be asked to walk it. But again, it's because how do I fit that in around everything else? If I just said fuck everything else, I'd have all the time in the world to take a dog for a walk. Gary actually wants a dog now, so that was another good thing about going to Egypt, because he's never been really that keen on dogs. But he sort of says now he wants one when he retires so that he can walk it. I'm like, I can't wait that long. What if, you know, you might never retire?
Yeah.
But he wants a big dog. And again, I would have brought Rusty, but I suspect when I asked the chickens, they went, no, no, no. Okay. I haven't really sort of asked Sally, because there's a bit of me that I didn't really want to freak her out while I was away. I started to ask how she felt about having a dog. You know, I don't know that I could get a fully grown dog like that and introduce it to the chickens and expect it to go well. I don't know. And I wouldn't put a dog through that anyway, you know, quarantine and all of that. But I do see the attraction. But there was the other two dogs that were there. One was a very large German Shepherd, and the other was a very large Doberman. And Gary's like, that's the sort of dog I want. I'm like, I'm cool with that. That's absolutely fine. The German Shepherd, interestingly, because it would never have happened here, you were told not to go near it, but people did, and he'd just bite you.
He just bite you?
He didn't bite me because I didn't go near him, because I'm actually I haven't been bitten by a dog, and I'm fearless until I know a dog is not safe, and then I won't go near them, because I take it so personally that any animal would bite me. I've been bitten by, ironically, a German Shepherd at the age of, I would have been about 18 or 19. It bit me on the ass really hard. It was a guard dog when I was working in Greece, somewhere in Greece, I think it was, in the greenhouses, and they have guard dogs. And as we came back in, I didn't realize that he could get to me at the end of his chain. So as I was walking away, he bit me on the ass, and it was really, really painful. And it's brought in me a fear that I didn't know was there, because I've always been completely fearless around dogs. You know, when I met Rusty, when we arrived at 5 o'clock in the morning, I immediately had my face right down cuddling him. I didn't know he had just shown up out of the desert like a day before. I just assumed he was a dog that belonged to the hotel. The dog that bit, though, was obviously, he was not wandering around. He was on a lead, and they just bring him out in the evenings, because we'd all eat together. It is a club. You basically join a club, and it was a club of really nice people. You know, in that sense, it was really nice meeting. There were some Germans, some Dutch. There was a lot of Glaswegian students out there that do marine biology and stuff like that. And you know, we met some really nice people, and they're all divers. It's a club, and there are probably worse clubs you could join, but I suspect, you know. But Yogi, the German Shepherd, even one of the instructors there, who has been going there for years, she's one of the lecturers from Glasgow University as well, and she'd said that she had never gone near Yogi. It was just like, just don't put your hands near him. They only obviously let him out when everyone was sitting at night, and they had told everybody, just don't. But apparently he'll come up and cuddle in with you. And she said, I had ignored him for 4 years, then he climbed on my lap, and she said, and you know, I got sucked in by him and he bit me. Like, okay. So there was a couple of, were they Austrian or German? I think they were a German couple, but they lived in Austria. They were volunteering out there, a very beautiful, glamorous couple of about early 20s students. And he heard that I was an animal communicator, and he's like, so I'm really interested to find about Yogi, because it seems that his behavior is getting worse. He started biting more people and all of that. And of course, it would never be allowed in this country. The dog would be destroyed. But, you know, it's fine. The guy who he bit this time knew full well that Yogi would bite, and he was like, oh, it's fine, and he got bitten. But yeah, that would be absolutely fascinating. But I was really cool with it. I was like, I'm not even going to speculate. It's not something, it's like, well, can you tell us why? This is him asking about their dog, and I was just like, it's their dog if they ask me, but it's quite interesting that he had immediately cottoned onto this. Okay, so you would be able to understand, why is Yogi doing this? Why is his behavior escalating? These are words I hadn't. I'd mentioned it to Sammy, the lady I'd been talking to about animals, and she's not that mad on animals. This is interesting. And there was a mouse in her room, and she really, really freaked out. And we had a conversation about that. And the mouse was teaching her, I can't forget something, but she was actually okay with that. And then I get a text from my friend who I share healing with, Kathy, and she's like, I'm really sorry. She said, but she'd spent the whole night in the garage. I assume in the States you have garages that are like in the house.
Connected to, yeah.
Because a mouse appeared, and she's absolutely phobic about them, and it had gone up the stairs, so she would not go upstairs in the house. And she's like, can you tell it to leave? I'm like, what's going on? I'm like, 2 mice in the space of 2 days.
Ooh, did you look it up? Mice totem or mouse totem?
No, because is it my lesson?
Yeah.
Or is it their lesson? Oh, should we do that?
Oh, also yours too. We know that they up there.
Oh, let me look it up then, because that's really interesting. Now I can't see you, so what's a mouse?
I just feel like it's so interesting that the topic today is unexpected challenges.
Yeah, mouse totem. Mouse, be more proactive.
Oh.
It's small and actively attempts to go through life unseen. Across time, the mass symbolism animal totem has ranged from adaptability and hypervigilance to modesty and innocence. I don't understand that.
I don't know. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe because you're not being hypervigilant about someone else scuba diving. Maybe it doesn't pertain anymore. But at the moment,
I look at that. Actually, I hadn't thought that, because I was like, what are the chances? And I was still saying to my friend Kathy, I was like, look, I can tell him to go, but I can't make him go.
Yeah.
And the mouse is like, what's the problem? I'm not hurting her. It's like, she's scared. But when I told him she was going to go and get live traps, he was like, okay, I'll leave.
And did he? Do you know?
Well, apparently, and I forgot to get back to her. I think the last thing I heard from her, I've been in a time warp because we lost a day.
Oh, yeah.
Where we didn't get any sleep. So I've been, and it must have been an email she sent me. I'm sure she sent me an email saying it has gone, but now she wants to know why it's gone. I was like,
Because you're starting to kill it. No.
see, there's just been so much stuff. Much stuff.
Yeah. It's this, my horoscope for this whole week has something to do with tricks or treats, and that anything that comes up, take it as a lesson or an opportunity to learn or something like that. So far, things haven't really, and maybe because I'm trying to be in the mindset of just kind of go with the flow. I don't know, but I haven't.
I would really, the whole surrender thing has been a theme. I mean, because a lot of the diving, one of the issues both Gary and I had, as well as popping up, is not being able to get down again, especially towards the end of the dive when the air is light, the air cylinder's lighter. This is why you have to wear all the weight, and could not get down. And Mo, the first instructors, I was like, I don't understand. And again, I'm doing it wrong, right? Me, and it's not like I'm not doing anything wrong. And Gary got like this because he'd popped up once, and then he's like, and I'm like, you didn't do anything wrong. It's like we take this as some what's the word? It's almost like you're a bad person because you're like, this is a sport that we're learning, and we haven't quite got the skills. Oh my God, there's more. I watched, I'm gonna have to look it up. It's a Pixar called Seeing Red or Being Red, and it's a little Chinese girl who loses her temper at puberty, presumably around puberty, and turns into a red panda that just goes bonkers. I mean, it's so beautifully done, with the animation. It's just so beautiful. But it was all about the mother, and a very loving, caring mother, and probably not being too stereotypical, but in a Chinese family where the children, you know, want to be the best and they have to behave in a certain way, but in a very loving way. But actually what you can see, what I could see as a grown-up, or maybe everyone can see, a very controlling mother, but in a very loving way, but very, very controlling. And this child is completely trapped in a life that she doesn't really want to do by being a good girl. So she's now getting to her teens where she wants to go out and do boy stuff, and her mother's horrified by it. So now she thinks she's a bad person for what, you know. And this is it. Why do we turn all this into that? It's that we're intrinsically bad people. Like, we cannot separate being bad at a task or at something.
Yeah.
We take that to mean some moral failing on our part. Absolutely ridiculous. I don't know where I'm going with this, but there's been so much of that, of this, that we see failure as some sort of moral crisis of some sort.
Instead
It's
of
not. Instead of, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I fucked up. Oh.
Or just even the potential lesson that failure. I had a reading not too long ago where the animal was telling the human, as part of the larger lesson, recognize that failure isn't bad. It's something to be celebrated, because it's the opening of something to grow from, or to learn from, or to, you know, it's failure.
Or even just to change direction. You try this, it doesn't work, so you try something else. Maybe that wasn't the right direction.
Yeah. I mean, I even look at when we TA for Danielle. I mean, it's so interesting because this one class, it just ended yesterday. And I've been TAing with someone I've never TA'd before with, but, you know, end up just another amazing human being. But we got in the habit of, after every class, we would be like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. Oh, I've said, you know, and Danielle's just like, thanks for being there. Thanks for doing a good, you know, all the things. And we're like, we're beating ourselves up for stuff that we think we did wrong.
Yeah.
But we didn't. And it's like learning to understand that we're there to be the additional perspective, because Danielle knows she's got her perspective, but she wants the other perspectives. And we coming to the table realizing, oh, we have something to add, instead of, no, we have to be just like her. That's a whole nother unexpected challenge of TAing as well. Yeah.
So interesting that you can see it in other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what a real eye-opener to me. Like, since I started talking to Sammy about this stuff, I'm like, oh my God, why are you apologizing for this? Why, you know, it's like, it's almost like when you see people, when you don't know people, and they come across as really proficient, confident and all that, and then you get to know them, especially in the sort of conversations we have with people, and then you start hearing their, oh, I apologizing for this, and you're like, wait a minute, like, here you are, you're an amazing fucking goddess, and I can now start to see all your insecurities, and I'm like, oh my God, are you mad?
Mm-hmm.
And even seeing Gary standing there like a little boy, going, like he'd done, like he should be punished because he pops up. You're like, this is madness. We're grown people, and we're ashamed of not acquiring a skill, which I'd have to add, when it happened the second time, I was quite annoyed about this, was because the most experienced dive instructor took us out, and he said, Gary, you've got too much weight on, took 2 kilos off his tank, which had been put there because he'd been popping up. And then this is when this all happened. I was like, this was not your fault. Yeah. Right? This was not your fault. All dive instructors are slightly different, and there is an exercise with a new person as to how to weight them, because you don't want too much weight on and but he changed the weight ratio, and Gary popped up, and now Gary's feeling like a naughty little boy that's let somebody down, and I'm like, oh my God, we're all so damaged. Like, why wouldn't you just go, fuck's sake, why did you remove the 2 kilos from my thingy? Look what happened. Instead of going, oh no, let everybody down. It's just, and I found that really hard to see Gary like that, because usually he's quite blasé about stuff. You know, he makes jokes about me being insecure, but you know, but seeing him in that situation, and of course then I'm like, how dare you make my husband feel like this? And they didn't, not intentionally. We do it all on ourselves. Mm-hmm. Oh, so much stuff, Julie. I want a holiday. Maybe I'll just get a dog, and this is it. Maybe I'll just give everything else up and get a dog. It
had to be either or.
That's a real, Well, it is, because part of the reasons we don't get nice visits of chickens.
Yeah.
I need to get a puppy. It's a lot of work, isn't it? Again, negative belief.
Yeah.
That's a lot of work, is it? Who knows?
I don't know.
We've been talking. I have no idea, Julie. I'm just rabbiting away.
Yeah. No, we're probably wrapping up now. I will just say that we got Lucas. He was not yet 2 years old. I thought he was a puppy because that's how Indian Bono showed him. And when I saw him on the website, I thought he was a puppy, but he was almost 2 years old and he's been lovely. He's been.
Yeah, I wouldn't be that bothered if it wasn't, but I'm less worried about the cat. I think she'd managed quite well, actually. I don't know that she'd be phased by a dog, but obviously the chickens would need to be more careful.
Yeah. Lucas loves cats. I'll just say and we didn't know he did, but where he used to go to daycare, they had a cat and he would constantly snuggle up with this cat and take naps.
Oh.
And then Kelly had cats. And so he would hang out. They would also tell him to stay away, but he would hang out with them without a problem. Chickens, on the other hand, he would like to chase. Probably
Well,
he has a bird dog in him, but yeah.
Well, when Rusty was down at the beach, that's a picture of that dog I showed you, and he was really puppy-like, although he was a big boy. We were on the beach, and Gary's like, "Oh, look at him," and he's standing, looking out like over at the sea, looking all spiritual and thoughtful. And I realised it looked like a goose. I don't know if you have geese in the sea, but it was a large seabird, the size of a duck or a goose, right on the shore, and that's what he was looking at. I was like, don't think I'll take him home to the chickens, because he was like.
Yeah.
But then I get so much joy out of petting animals, and as I said, I do get that with the cat.
There's your joy. There's joy right there.
I know, but the cat, it's not the same with the cat. I do love Sally, but she doesn't spend much time with us. She just sleeps all day. It's not. But
when she does that thing when we're on camera, and she does that. Yeah, that's.
She was a bit odd with us when we got back, which she never has been before, but I suppose we've only actually been away once since we had her because of COVID. And she was in kennels. So when they're in kennels, of course they're glad to see you. But being in our home, because Stella looked after her, actually she did. I asked her, and I got all this, and you remember, well, no, you don't. It was Monica who'd done this before. The cats lay energy grids, and one of the reasons why Twiggy died when she did was because she didn't want to have to move house and do it all again. And Sally was actually showing, I don't know, it's hard to put it into words, but it's like, you know, something changes, like we go away, the energy in the house changes. She then works around all of that and brings Stella into her thing. And then we come back and we expect everything to be as it was. And she's like, you know, and it's not personal, but it's just like, whoa, I sort of need to weave round this a bit, you know, I need to, you know, because she just wasn't very chummy when we got back at all. But that's because she's saying, like, you know, it's more than just you. There's this whole energy that I have to sort out around you, and the energy of the house has changed. You walk back in and expect to be top priority, and frankly, I'm busy. So she's last night she was a bit more chummy, but it's just interesting, really interesting.
Yeah.
So much
challenges every time you turn around. They just don't stop. No, I know.
Well, my goal is going to be to find ways to actually just not do stuff, Julie. And do what I want to do. Not so much not do things, but try and find things that I genuinely want to do, and try and prioritize those. Yeah.
I'm right with you. That's how I've been feeling of late too. Yeah, which is why I've started reading much more again, because the guides were like, you need to read more.
Maybe we need to meet up, because I wouldn't mind just to chat with you as well, just that stuff. Maybe we could talk about that.
Absolutely. But for now, we'll allow the viewers to do something else. Find another challenge that's been unexpected for the day.
Yes.
Cool.
So, thank you for listening to me, Julie. It was a bit of a rant. I probably... and thank you, everybody, for watching us. We are Making Light. I'm Kate Foggo. This is Julie Hurt. If you have any suggestions or comments on this or any of our other episodes, please put it down here below. You can subscribe on YouTube, you can follow us on Facebook, and you can follow us on Instagram and to get notified of new episodes. If you press the little bell button below, it will subscribe you on YouTube. So any comments you have about unexpected challenges that you've found, or anything, or even suggestions for other episodes, we'd love to hear from you. So we are making light, and I was going to say we are making light good night, but that's what it's not quite night time, is it? We are making light. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for what? Thank you for joining us.